Before the fall, there was light. We remember it not as flame or sun, but as a shimmer before dawn, the faint radiance that hints a world is waking. Lucifer, the light-bearer, was once the herald of that dawn. In the oldest tongue, his name meant the Shining One, the planet Venus rising before the day. It was a word of beauty, not of blasphemy. Yet stories change. When the poets of faith sought language for pride and downfall, they reached for that ancient light. The morning star was cast from heaven, not for darkness' sake, but for daring to rival the sun. And so begins our journey, not into evil, but into the mystery of illumination itself, why the bringer of light must first pass through shadow. We stand at the edge of myth, whispering, what is this path that leads downward only to rise again? In every heaven there stirs a question, what if obedience were not the highest virtue? The myth of Lucifer is the myth of that question taking shape. He stands before the throne, radiant, fearless, burning with the fire that made him, and he asks, is the source complete without the freedom of its creation? In that instant, eternity fractures, the choirs divide, some cling to order, others to the terrible beauty of self-will. The fall is not a war in space, but a convulsion in consciousness, the first awareness of separation. And we, children of that same spark, feel its echo each time we choose between comfort and awakening. We call it rebellion, yet perhaps it is the first act of love, the desire to know the divine from within, not only to serve it from afar. Long after angels lost their wings in story, the Greeks remembered the same truth in another form. Prometheus stole the fire of Olympus and carried it in a hollow reed to humankind. For this gift of knowledge and art he was bound to a rock, his heart devoured by an eagle each day. We hear in that myth the same pulse, the price of illumination. To bring light into a world unready for it is to suffer the claws of consequence. Yet the Titan endures, for he knows the wound itself becomes the lamp. We walk beside him, each act of creation, each refusal to accept ignorance, a spark torn from divine flame. Prometheus and Lucifer, names of the same current, flowing through time as one defiant song. Better to bear the fire in agony than live forever in unlit peace. When the early mystics turned inward, they found another tale beneath the scripture. The world, they said, was shaped not by a perfect God, but by a demiurge, a craftsman who mistook his shadow for the whole. Into that prison of matter, a divine spark fell, a shard of the hidden light. We are that spark. Lucifer becomes here the symbol of remembrance, the call of Sophia, the yearning to return beyond the walls of form. The serpent in the garden no longer tempts, he reminds. He whispers not of sin, but of knowledge, of the God within the clay. And so in secret the Gnostics lit their lamps. Each revelation was an act of rebellion, not against the true God, but against ignorance dressed as holiness. They saw the fall as the descent of consciousness, and the rise as its awakening. Through Alexandria's dust and the scrolls of Hermes Trismegistus, the same light burned in new letters. As above, so below, the Magi wrote, and as within, so without. Lucifer now was not a name, but a principle, the radiance of intellect, the mercury of the soul, the alchemical spark that transforms lead into gold. We read these texts and feel their breath, that the mind itself is a temple and thought a sacred fire. The initiate does not curse the darkness. He learns to kindle within it a sun. In that act we begin the work, the great art, transmuting ignorance into illumination. Every flame we strike in learning, every truth wrested from silence, is another echo of the light-bearer's will. To know is to serve the hidden light. But power fears illumination. As empires rose from faith, the radiant name was chained. Lucifer, once morning, was painted night, the myth inverted, so that obedience could wear the mask of virtue and curiosity be clothed in sin. The serpent became the devil, the seeker became the accused, and the lamp of inquiry was dimmed beneath altars of fear. Yet shadows only prove the presence of a greater light. The medieval mystics still trace the forbidden gleam in their manuscripts, hiding Venus beneath the Virgin star. We see in this inversion not the death of Lucifer, but his concealment, a retreat into symbol, awaiting an age that could once again bear to look upon the dawn. And that age came. Voltaire's laughter shattered idols. Blake saw angels in factory smoke. Shelley called Lucifer the spirit of the beauty of the world. The Enlightenment rekindled the Promethean fire in the furnace of reason. To think freely was the new sacrament. Each experiment, each poem, each revolution was a hymn to the morning star rediscovered. We too inherit that flame, the courage to doubt, the faith in inquiry. And though some mistook the light for the end of mystery, the wise saw deeper. That reason itself is a torch carried through an infinite night, and that wonder must walk beside it. Then came the magicians of the modern age. Eliphas Levi drew the Baphomet as equilibrium, light and dark entwined. Blavatsky spoke of the Luciferian spark as the essence of human divinity. Crowley named the inner star our truest self. They did not worship a demon, they sought the hidden sun behind the mask. Their Lucifer was consciousness made sovereign, the self recognizing itself as fragment and reflection of the Absolute. In their lodges and quiet studies they rebuilt what dogma had destroyed. The dignity of seeking, the holiness of the mind unchained. To walk the Luciferian path was not to bow before darkness, but to master it, to bring every shadow into the service of light. All myths return at last to the mirror. What we call angels and demons are movements within our own soul. Lucifer lives where thought first challenges habit, where the spirit demands authenticity. In Jung's language, he is the shadow's dawn, the moment we cease to flee our contradictions and begin to integrate them. For the fall was never merely from heaven to earth, but from unity to awareness. And the climb is not upward through clouds, but inward through understanding. When we dare to confront the denied self, our pride, our hunger, our fear, and transmute them into wisdom, we enact the oldest alchemy. We become in miniature the light-bearer. We carry within our chest the same torch Prometheus held aloft. Now the path turns homeward. After the rebellion, the fire, the long exile through myth and mind, we arrive not at a throne, but at a horizon. The sky is pale with morning. We have not conquered heaven. We have remembered it. Lucifer's story is the human story, the descent of light into limitation, the struggle of consciousness through ignorance, the return of understanding to compassion. Every age casts him anew, angel, titan, thinker, artist, self, and in each form he whispers the same truth: the light you seek is already within you. So we breathe and lift our gaze to the east. The world is still veiled in shadow, yet on its edge burns the promise of day. We walk onward, not as the fallen, but as the rising. For the Luciferian path was never about defiance alone. It was always about becoming light. And as dawn breaks, we remember. We have been carrying the morning star all along. You've been watching the Esoteric Unveiled, exploring hidden orders, forgotten truths, and forbidden knowledge. Like and subscribe.